When I started my business, I needed a van. Unfortunately, at that time, the vans in Phoenix, Arizona were way overpriced and way past my budget. I ended up finding a van out in New Jersey. And when the van got here and the truck driver, started it on the back of the trailer and he started it up, I saw a massive cloud of white smoke come out of the exhaust. And I took the car to a mechanic and needed a new engine. I truly thought about going back to working for someone, but after I started thinking about it a bit more, with what money I had for the business, I found a second-hand engine. I only had, I think, 30,000 miles on it. Got the engine put in, and she come back to life. So we end up naming her Sheila. And she's still here. She's still driving strong.
James Hill is the owner and operator of the Aussie Plumber in Phoenix, Arizona. Originally from Melbourne, Australia, he eventually moved to the United States where he launched the Aussie Plumber, bringing his expert knowledge and a little bit of that Australian charm to his many loyal customers across the Phoenix Valley. The Aussie Plumber handles all types of residential plumbing jobs, from leaky faucets to complex plumbing overhauls. And in his spare time, James is an avid supporter of local schools, charities, and sports teams. It's my pleasure to welcome James to share more about his story and his experiences. James, how are you?
Good, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Great. I want to get right into it, James. Let's talk a little bit about your upbringing in Australia and kind of take us back to, that pivotal moment in everybody's life, those few months leading into graduation from high school and kind of deciding what you want to do with the rest of your life.
Yeah, so growing up, my dad always ran and owned his own businesses. To be honest, after high school, I was pretty lost on what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to work with my hands. I was pretty handy, doing a fair few things. I tried several different trades and didn't really like any of them. I ended up falling into sign writing and wrapping vans, hand painting signs for 12 years. So I stuck with that for a fair while, but just knew that there was something else for me out there.
What are some of the things that you learned kind of working in that sign industry?
After creating many signs, wrapping many vans, I know having a good logo, having a good brand is half the battle. So seeing some of the plain trucks with just white lettering on it, I knew that's not how I wanted to be. So it's that's the one thing that I really took from that and brought over to the plumbing business, is how to stand out amongst all the other plumbers in the valley.
So you saw a lot of transformation early on. And speaking of transformation, a big transformation happened in your life when you decided to move from Australia to United States. Can you kind of take us to, I don't know, maybe 6 months before the decision to board that flight with all your stuff to the States, and maybe 6 months after you landed?
Yeah, sure. So my wife's originally from New York, and she lived in Australia with me for a few years, and we lived 2 streets back from the beach. So I was pretty happy where I was. Didn't really want to move. My wife really missed her family, and we decided to move to New York. I only really visited New York in the summertime. So once we all boarded that plane, we sold everything. We boarded the plane, landed, and by October, it wasn't even winter, and I was frozen. Never felt cold weather like that before in my life. From when I actually landed in New York, I did start doing sign writing again, wrapping vans, but I wanted to be a plumber. I thought about all the different trades that are out there, and plumbing just always had a calling to me. So I found an ad on Craigslist for an apprentice plumber. I applied, got the job, and off I went.
For any Americans listening out there, James looks just like all of us. Okay, he didn't arrive in America looking like the crocodile hunter with those, snakeskin boots and the hat and the safari gear. James, was it a little bit challenging, kind of settling into America despite your lack of crocodile hunter appearance?
Mate, that movie made us all to appear what we're not. It's I love the Crocodile Hunter. I love the Crocodile Dundee. We are not like them, not most of us anyway. So they definitely portray a good image of us. So when I meet Americans, they think that we catch crocodiles, which we don't. But honestly, man, when I first moved over, I would say it took me a good year of not wanting to go back home. The first year was tough. It was just a whole new scene, a whole new way of life. Everything had changed. It was a rough transition, but once I started the plumbing apprenticeship, I sort of felt like I had a purpose to go to every day, and I feel like that's what really helped me transition and meeting more customers and being in their homes, just helped me more relax. And, they're the same as me, I'm the same as them. And it just made the transition a lot easier.
Just help me out here, James. Did you start your plumbing apprenticeship in New York, or did a move to Arizona happen? You're in Phoenix now. How did that come to life?
Yeah, so I did want to be a plumber in Australia, and because I was a mature, older guy, it was very difficult to get to get an apprenticeship because they want young people so they can pay them a lower wage. So that was hard, and my wife told me that in America it's different. They want someone that's a little older, a little more put together, and they know that's going to turn up every day. So yeah, once I started my apprenticeship, I got put with a fantastic plumber. His name is Jerry, and him and I hit it off straight away. And he's shown me everything from how to build a house from scratch, how to service everything, how to do everything that possibly I could ever dream of. They also put me with another plumber for the service side, the residential service side. His name was Tom. That guy is the Rain Man of plumbing. He knows every part. He knows how to fix everything. So I really got lucky with going and doing my apprenticeship at that place.
Quarter-inch PVC pipe gets connected to it, like kind of Rain Man like this.
Oh man, yeah, you could show him a stem, a cartridge, or anything, and he just knew it. There's nothing that guy didn't know. It was amazing just to be around him, learn from all of them, and it was everything from building houses, giant houses out in Southampton, to servicing tiny little bungalows on the Gold Coast of Long Island, and just it was a cool experience to work out there.
So we have a remake. If Hollywood is listening, we got Dustin Hoffman as Jerry, and James Hill, the Aussie plumber, as Tom Cruise.
There you go.
So now you're in Long Island. You've started. You found a purpose, and that's great. And kind of fell in. I think from hearing you and knowing you, you really kind of fell in love with the art of plumbing, right?
Mate, it's. I like things straight and organized in my life. And when you look at a plumbing system, if the pipes aren't straight, it ain't done right. It's the little things like that I just love, to be so particular on everything and to be able to control what water does. That's what I really enjoy.
Love it. And then out of nowhere, you moved to Phoenix?
Right, after spending 5 grueling years in the cold weather up there, I couldn't handle it anymore. So we come down to Phoenix just for some hiking, and had a look around and sort of liked what I saw, and started looking at some different jobs. And the jobs made sense. The housing price made sense. The weather definitely made sense to me. So I think it was 6 months later, we packed up and drove down here, just me, my wife, and my little Shih Tzu dog. and yeah, made the move.
Are there any similarities, James, between Phoenix and Melbourne?
I wouldn't say Melbourne. Where Michelle and I lived was up in Queensland. I was born and raised in Melbourne, but then I moved to Queensland, which is more of a beach, hotter climate. Um, it's so strange why I feel at home here because there is no water. I can't put my finger on it, but when I land on a plane coming back, I feel like home. The people are just down to earth and genuine, and the people here remind me of back home.
James, forgive us, for not knowing, but Queensland, is that Gold Coast, Brisbane area?
Yeah, there's the Gold Coast, Brisbane, and then I was up on the Sunshine Coast.
One can argue that that's the California. Phoenix is more like the desert, no?
It's if this place had a beach, it would be the best place in the world.
I think a lot of your loyal customers would certainly agree with you. James, kind of transitioning into this big move, moving from one country to another is something. Moving from one state to another is something else. And then a city to a city. And now you're starting fresh. Your network is slim now in Phoenix. You don't really know anybody. How do you do it, man?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge moving from New York to Phoenix was just me and my wife. We had no friends, had no family down here, but we knew that we wanted something else in our life to be in better weather and just to give something else a go. From when I was around 20, I always knew that there was something else for me. So I never really feared in getting in my car, driving to another city and living there and trying it out there. So to me, it wasn't too scary. I know for my wife, it was, she definitely missed her family at the start and she still does. But it's been a great move.
How quick were you able to reestablish yourself in the plumbing industry locally in Phoenix as you did back in New York?
Yeah, so the way I found work down here was when I was still in New York. I just started Googling plumbing companies. And what I focused on was not who's advertising. I focused on who had the best reviews. And I knew if you had the best reviews that you're going to have the great quality of work, you're going to have great leadership. The place where I come from back in New York, I don't think any other plumbing company on Long Island can match their quality of work. So that's something I didn't want to lose. So when I found the other company down here, they had great reviews. I flew myself down, had an interview, and got the job and flew back home.
And how were your first couple weeks there? Maybe a couple weeks leading to a couple months. And how long were you at that first company there in Phoenix?
The first few weeks, it was hot. We moved in August. So whereas when I lived in New York, I never experienced cold like that. When I moved to Arizona, Phoenix, I never experienced heat as hot as here. So the first few months it was hard dealing with that, but I'd rather be hot than cold. I started making friends pretty quickly within that business. I was at that company for roughly 4 years. Just worked my way up from a service plumber to into a field supervisor position, and then on to sewer sales, sewer installs, running a crew that way, and just always trying to take the next step and not just be a service plumber in a truck. Always trying to see what else I can do.
James, I got a fun question for you.
Shoot.
Your first solo job where you're in the truck by yourself and you're going solo. Tell me about the one in New York and tell me about the one in Phoenix.
So my first call that I got sent to back in New York, let me tell you about my van. My van was rusted. My van had nothing. My van had I could see the floor through the others on the passenger side. It had no heat. It had no AC, but it was my van. So that morning I stripped it out. I cleaned it, organized it the best I could, loaded up my tools, and they sent me on my way. And I read the job. The whole time I was trying to figure out what the job was, what the issue could be. even before I got there, which did not help with any anxiety or anything like that. Instead of just sitting back and relaxing and deal with it when you get there, yeah, there was a lot going on through my head. It's
Right.
yeah, I was nervous as hell, knocking on the door, now greeting the customer. So yeah, on the way out, I wasted a whole lot of time trying to figure out what the issue is. When I got there, I just took a deep breath and went and knocked on the door and gave it a shot and figured it out.
Awesome stuff. And then maybe you're a little bit more experienced with your first call in Phoenix, but new environment, new area, and it's kind of like, I would say the first solo call a plumber has is kind of their real graduation in, or like their initiation into the industry. This is like your knighting moment where the sword gets put onto your left shoulder, your right shoulder. Hey, you're now a plumber. Take me back to that first house call, the solo job in Phoenix.
Yeah, so I'll backtrack a tiny bit. When I worked in New York, I was hourly. We had paper invoices. You didn't collect from the customer. You just wrote down what you done and you send it all back to the office and they take care of the rest. When I got to Arizona, I was on commission and it was totally a whole new game. You had to go and sell the job, obviously do the job, price out the job. It was a totally different concept to what I've been used to. So that took a little while to get used to it. The part that I started thinking about was that I have a lot more control on how I can present options to customer, make sure they're getting the right fit for their right house. But it also made me, even though I worked for a company, I treated my own truck like it was my own company. So I always made sure that, I always called the customer on the way. I always followed up on all my estimates and things like that. It was transitioning that way definitely helped me grow more as a plumber and take a better look at everything. So I enjoyed that transformation.
Real quick, James, you mentioned something really interesting there. I just want to touch a little bit more on it. The pressure that a plumber gets when he's working hourly compared to when he's working commission. Did you feel that? Is that something that you felt? And can you talk about the differences in the perspective of a service plumber?
Yeah, being an hourly plumber might suit a lot of people if they want to clock in and clock out. I don't think you're getting the most out of your plumber when he is hourly, because it doesn't matter if it takes him 4 hours or 2 hours or 8 hours. The transition to being a commissioned plumber, I knew that if I worked more efficiently, got all my parts together and done what I needed to do in a timely fashion, I was able to make more money. So the biggest thing with that was, instead of having a plumber that comes in and a 2-hour job takes them 6 hours, a plumber's going to come in with a different train of thought, and a 2-hour job, he's going to make that try and go an hour and a half. And the reward of that is he gets more money. The customer gets their day back faster. And I just think it's a win-win for everyone.
James, let's talk about the inner workings of the plumbing culture. A lot of times we look at plumbers as the guys who are here to fix a problem. But from my experiences, and I've been working with plumbers for years now on a marketing level, they're pretty cool guys. They're guys that, you'd want to have a beer with. They've got some interesting stories. Were you able to kind of fit into this culture, this kind of plumbing working culture? It's very different than an office culture. It's very different than a job site culture, which is a lot of new construction. The service plumber culture, can we kind of dive into that a little bit and how you kind of figured this out, specifically in Phoenix?
Yeah, I feel like in any service industry, when I talk to young kids that potentially want to be plumbers, it's like a bunch of grown kids. We're all just here to have fun, hang out, get down and dirty, do what needs to be done. And if you hit it off with a fair few, which I did, you hang out on the weekend. It's a good field to be in, and there's a lot of great guys out there that are just like you. They don't mind getting dirty, and they don't mind hanging out after work and talking plumbing and helping each other out.
Whatever you did seemed to work, because in under 2 years, you were promoted to a supervisor role. How did that come to life?
As that company sort of started growing, they just needed someone that could review the pictures and the invoices and be more of a technical support for some of the younger guys. It was a role that they knew I would be interested in. That I used to do like the ride-alongs with the new employees and have apprentices with me, so that they knew I enjoyed that sort of aspect of plumbing, is passing the knowledge along. So yeah, when they offered it to me, I jumped at the chance.
And then you decided to create the Aussie Plumber. What a name, the Aussie Plumber, right there in Phoenix, Arizona. How did this idea, the Aussie Plumber, how did it come to life?
So as my experience grew, and I just knew that I wanted to do my own thing. It's I wanted to create a business that I could just make all the decisions myself. That was the biggest thing. And by making the decisions, it's the decisions that were based more on making sure the customer gets the right service. We got the right tools to get their days back on track. It was more just a dream at that point of like, could it be, would it be, and how would I do it? It was at the very start, man. It took a while to make that leap, and it was actually my wife that finally pushed me over the edge to get it done, and I haven't turned back, and I've been thankful ever since.
Every strong CEO has a strong wife behind them, and the dream of the Aussie Plumber came to life, and a reality check hit you pretty hard when you found out starting a company requires spending a bunch of money and making a lot of mistakes. Tell me about some of those early mishaps that happened in the formation of the Aussie Plumber. I believe if I did my research correctly, that there's somewhere in this storyline that requires New Jersey.
Yeah, it's when I started my business that I needed a van. I didn't want to be that guy that's cruising around in my pickup truck. I just don't think it looks professional. So I had a really good look around for some vans. Unfortunately, at that time, the vans in Phoenix, Arizona were way overpriced and way past my budget. So I started looking in California, New Mexico, Colorado, trying to find all these close states where I could get a van. And I had a budget in mind, and times, I was doing a lot of runs to the supply house back and forth in my pickup, and I knew something had to change. So I ended up finding a van out in New Jersey. I knew I couldn't fly out there. I didn't have time. I wanted to be ready for if a new potential customer wanted my service, that I was going to be there for them whenever they called. The van looked good, sounded good. The Carfax come back looking good, but because I couldn't go out and inspect it myself, I got a third party out to check it out. They gave it a good once over, let me know that I had a few little scratch and dents, but overall the life and the health of that van was in tip-top condition. And so I moved forward with the purchase. I got the van shipped down here, and when the van got here and the truck driver started it on the back of the trailer and he started it up, I saw a massive cloud of white smoke come out of the exhaust. And I don't know a lot about cars and engines, but I know enough to know that isn't a good sign. So the next day I called the place where I got it. Sure as hell, they told me that it wasn't happening there. So must be something new, even though the car got delivered to my front driveway. I took the car to a mechanic, and yeah, they said that the engine had a crack and it was blown, needed a new engine. So I was in constant contact trying to talk to the place where I got it from, and they pretty much just started ignoring me and told me it is what it is. So that was pretty gut wrenching because a new business, not much money. It was hard. I truly thought about going back to working for someone because that was a pretty big hit for me, especially when I found out the price of putting a new engine and getting it installed. But after I started thinking about it a bit more and talking it over with my wife, you always end up finding money somewhere. So with what money I had for the business, I found a secondhand engine. I only had, I think, 30,000 miles on it. Got the engine put in, and she come back to life. So we end up naming her Sheila. And she's still here. She's still driving strong.
Now, if everybody thinks that it's just smooth sailing from here, we've got the plumbing van fixed and we're all set and everybody lives happily ever after, know one thing, starting a business is not that easy. James, there was also a mishap with some sort of naming of the company. It wasn't always the Aussie Plumber now, was it?
No, at the very start, our name, which I tried for, I think it was 4 weeks, was called Southern Cross Plumbing. Um, I love the constellation. I love anything to do with space, and thought it's Australia. Everyone will get it. Little did I know that not everyone knows what the Southern Hemisphere constellation looks like. So a lot of the times when people would call up, I would spend around 10 minutes explaining the business name. And most of the time I got back a little and I still knew they didn't get it. And there was something in me is like, we got to change this because we're not going to resonate with people and get them to call us based off that name.
A name that you loved, but perhaps your customers didn't.
Yeah, I thought, man, we'll keep it Australian. What's more Australian than the Southern Cross? Like, that is what we see in our sky. So to me, it made total sense. To everyone else, besides maybe like the select customers, like a few, it made no sense.
Well, to answer your question, what's more Australian than the constellations, or interest in the constellations? I'll tell you what's more Australian than that is crocodiles and kangaroos, my friend.
Pretty much. It's yeah, we're not known for a lot of things, but we are known for kangaroos, crocodiles, and being relaxed and having a good attitude. I know we're known for that. But yeah, I just knew we had to make a change before we got too deep into it. So my wife would not agree. I think I come up with the name Aussie Plumber. She thinks she's did. We don't really talk about it that much. But either way, yeah, we took off with the Aussie Plumber. I started having to think, like, who am I? What do I want to be? And I am the Aussie Plumber.
And by the way, that's for any plumbing business owner out there or aspiring plumbing business owner out there, that is the question that you need to know more than any. You need to know the answer to these questions more than any. Who are you and who are you serving? Just as important as who your customers are is who you are as a brand. And a brand is nothing but somebody's gut feeling about your company. And I think that the Aussie Plumber represents James, his culture, and his company very well. James, you've got the name now. You've got the service van. You probably already have the majority of the tools needed. You've been doing plumbing for some time at this point. What's next?
Really, it was at the start, I didn't think of it being any more than just me in a truck. I just thought that's how it was forever gonna be. And it started getting to that point where I was selling jobs that my body just couldn't cash. I would say yes to whatever job, even though I knew I couldn't do it by myself. I found a way. I just kept saying yes and yes, and I eventually got to the point where I hired my first guy, and yeah, just started having that vision that this could be something more than just me cruising around in a truck. That I could create an environment which I liked as a business, and hopefully the employees would like. So yeah, we kept growing, kept saying yes to every job that come in, and kept hiring.
At this point, do you have a website, a business phone number, a logo? I mean, how are you giving this thing, the Aussie Plumber, legs?
Yeah, so the first website, me and my wife actually just created ourselves, and we just knew we needed something so someone could find us. And I knew nothing about advertising. I knew nothing about business. I just knew that I know plumbing, and it was more the it was more just knowing like what brand am I trying to portray with this name. I wanted it to be sort of friendly. I didn't need someone holding a wrench on the side of a truck. So I just actually designed my business logo and all that through Canva myself, and got cards printed, shirts made, and hats made, and got the van, got lettering on the van, and yeah, it worked pretty well for the at the start.
How long did it take before the schedule started filling up and you had to make a decision in perhaps taking the business from startup mode to, hey, this is now a real company? And mind you, sorry, James, but this usually takes about 5 years. It seems like you got to work pretty quick on this transition.
Yeah, once word started really getting out, who we are, what we do, we turn up when we say we're going to turn up. We offer upfront pricing so the customer knows what's going on, and we do what we say we're going to do. We started getting really busy. So before long, it was me and another guy that was slammed working 10, 12 hours a day and Saturdays, and I would go out on Sundays. And then, yeah, we hired another guy, and off we went again. It's keep filling the schedule. And at that point, I will say, I think the reason we took off so fast was my wife come over and joined the team and got me off the phones, and she got in front of the customers and sold our service the way, just telling the customer what they're going to get and what to expect. And I honestly feel like we got to where we did from how she answers the calls and makes everyone calm and knows that we're going to come out and get your day back on track.
Having the privilege to have worked with Michelle, I could tell you that she has risen to elite status in managing a plumbing company. A lot of what happens behind the scenes is due in large part to Michelle's management skills and making sure everything is organized. She is a tremendous asset to the Aussie Plumber. We know the impact Michelle has on the company as a whole, but James, as the business owner, how much did this help you?
Bringing Michelle on was a big relief on my part. It definitely freed me up to be able to concentrate on being at a customer's house and not worrying about my phone ringing with another potential customer. When she started answering the phone straight away, it really changed the game of how customers perceived our company. I was no longer a guy under a sink trying to answer the phone. We had someone professional in the office that was taking care of that.
And finally, James, sticking to the subject of quote unquote behind the scenes, something that a lot of people don't know about you is you have a lot of support behind you. A lot of people are rooting for you, and they have been rooting for you consistently throughout this entire journey. I'm wondering if we can, give a special shout out to those who have been with you since What do the kids call it since day one?
Sure. So I'll start with family. So my dad has always been an inspiration to working for yourself and just giving it a go and making your own decisions. My mum's been a great supporter in just making me know that we're doing the right thing. When I first started plumbing, Michelle's dad always used to say, James the plumber, for my own business. And my wife and I constantly joke about that he was the one that first had the vision. So it's great that I've had people believe in me and the business even before the business was open. So family has been a great support from day one. When I was at a gas station once, just filling up, this guy come around, knocked on my window, and I wound it down. I had no idea who he was, and he said, "I always knew you would do it and get out on your own." And I told him thanks. I had no idea who he was. He might have been someone that rode along with me at the last plumbing company. I'm not too sure, but it's just nice that even back then that someone had thought that I had the potential. So we've had great support, especially in our neighborhood as well. We get comments all the time that they really appreciate having our plumbing business within the community, helping the community. We had one customer. Unfortunately, her husband passed away a few weeks ago, and the next day she had a leak, and we sent one of our plumbers out to take care of that, get her back up and running. Michelle, being the sweetheart she is, also sent her out some soup and things like that to make her feel better. The highlight of this whole story was when I was walking my dog in the morning. One of the neighbors said that they were walking with her as well, and they both couldn't agree that how happy they are that our business is within our community helping out. So that made my day very early in the morning. So it was good to hear.
And finally, James, if there are Phoenix homeowners listening to this podcast episode, looking for perhaps some plumbing advice, some advice on their plumbing systems, their plumbing equipment, plumbing in general, what advice would you give them?
I honestly feel like talking to the plumbing homeowners here to understand the three killers of plumbing. We have old age. We can help with that. We got high pressure and we got hard water. If we can help control them, we're going to make your house last a lot longer and not cause any mishaps. It's just really understanding how a plumbing system works, which our guys, when they go out, they always check we call them the vitals, just the same as a doctor would. We always check the system, make sure everything's working correctly.
That's James Hill, founder, owner, and the Aussie Plumber over in Phoenix, Arizona. And if you found anything insightful in today's episode with the Aussie Plumber, be sure to give them a 5-star review on Google. I'm sure they would appreciate that very much. If you want to know more about the Aussie Plumber, www.theaussieplumber.com is where you can find more information on this wonderful company out of Phoenix, Arizona. James, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, buddy. It's been fun.